Unit 13. Listening Part 2. Exercise 4.
Hi. So, as part of our project on historic local buildings, I thought I'd tell you about the house where I live. My mum and dad bought it when I was about 7, so we've been there for about 8 years now. It isn't all that old. It was built about 15 years ago, but it's on the site of a much older place dating back to the 15th century, which fell down. Anyway, why I'm telling you all this is because we're pretty sure the house is haunted. I mean, it's got ghosts. Yeah, you can laugh, but I'm not joking. I know because I know several people, myself included, who have had some strange experiences there. Yeah, you may think I'm just telling you a story, but a couple of years ago I remember my mum and dad had invited all sorts of relatives to one of those big family celebrations, and we were all sitting round after lunch. I was playing some game with my cousins, and my grandma was telling everyone about her visits to the doctor or something, when my uncle suddenly went pale and dropped his coffee cup. Grandma thought he'd been taken ill or something because of her stories, but he said he'd just seen a group of men dressed up as medieval soldiers go past the window. We cousins ran outside to take a look, but there was nobody there. Anyway, when he'd calmed down, he described their appearance in quite a lot of detail, so he wasn't just making it up. Then, a couple of months later, a friend of my mum's was staying with us. My mum was busy in her study and I was watching football on the telly in the sitting room when the friend came rushing out of the kitchen, shouting and hollering that he'd seen the table sort of float across the room. I've never seen a grown-up tremble like he did. So when we went to look, the table had actually moved, and it's one of those really heavy old oak ones. It took 3 of us to push it back, so he couldn't have done it on his own. Anyway, I'm not sure if it's because of the things which have happened, but when I'm studying in my room, I sometimes feel as if there's someone standing behind me, sort of breathing down my neck, and checking what I'm doing like it's one of my teachers. I mean, I can feel the breath, but when I turn round, there's no one there. That shakes me up a bit. Anyway, my mum complained that she was experiencing the same thing, so she got the builders in and she had the old garage at the back of the house turned into a study so she could work there instead, without being interrupted by these uninvited visitors. Then, my dad got the whole house checked by a specialist in supernatural phenomena, a sort of ghost hunter. She checked local history records, and apparently the house is actually located somewhere where, after one of those invasions, a battle took place a few hundred years ago with lots of fighting, so there could be quite a few bodies buried there. Weird, isn't it? A bit later, my dad decided to have a tennis court built in a corner of the garden so he and I could play together. Anyway, one of the workers was on his own there one morning when he felt someone watching him. When he turned round, he saw something which literally made his hair stand on end. A man standing there with a white shirt covered in blood. The lad shouted and the man just disappeared. When we questioned him, he was gibbering and shaking. He didn't know anything about the other supernatural experiences people have been having. My mum's getting a bit fed up with all these happenings, but my dad doesn't mind them so much. You see, he's only down here at weekends because he works in London during the week.
Unit 13. Speaking Part 2. Exercise 5.
Peter, it's your turn first. Here are your photographs. They show 2 different places to live. I'd like you to compare the photographs and say what you think it is like for the people to live in each of these places. All right?
Okay. The first photo shows a traditional country cottage with the occupants, a family, standing in the garden where they grow their own vegetables, whereas the second photo shows a young family living in a smart luxury flat with a view of the city. I guess both photos show a lifestyle which the people have chosen and which they like, so for both families it must be very pleasant to live where they do. Living in the country cottage must be very peaceful, with very little stress, no pollution and plenty of physical work, healthy organic food and fresh air. On the other hand, living in the city flat might be quite exciting because you're at the center of things, with entertainment and friends close by. I think the first photo shows a way of life where money and success in your career are not so important as being close to nature and the countryside. The people living in this sort of environment probably have plenty of time to spend together. The family in the second photo must need to earn quite a lot of money to maintain their lifestyle, which is probably busier and more stressful.
Thank you. Martina, which place would you choose to live in?
I'd choose the city flat because I can only fulfill my ambitions in a city, so I'd have to live there as well.
Thank you. Now here are your photographs. They show...
Unit 13. Pronunciation. Exercise 1. A.
With the occupants, a family standing in the garden. On the other hand, living in the city flat might be quite exciting.
B.
Where they grow their own vegetables. Money and success in your career are not so important as being close to nature and the countryside, which is probably busier and more stressful.
C.
Money and success in your career are not so important. The family in the second photo must need to earn quite a lot of money.
Unit 13. Pronunciation. Exercise 3. 1.
We live further away from the old town.
2.
Does he ever answer your questions?
3.
Our aunt comes to stay at our house just now and then.
4.
Fewer and fewer shops in our area are open at weekends.
5.
Many of you are busy and in a hurry.
6.
The end of the story is more exciting than the beginning.
Unit 13. Grammar. Expressing obligation and permission. Exercise 3.
So what's your host family like, Miguel? Are they friendly?
Yeah, they're great fun. Especially the mum. She's always cracking jokes and suggesting interesting things to do. And she's got a couple of daughters my age who don't stop laughing. The house is always full of their friends too, so it's like a permanent party. And that's great for my social life. The only drawback is that I can't stay out too late because they all have to be up early the next morning. I don't have to do anything around the house or things like that, though I do help from time to time, just to fit in and make things easier for them. What about you, Irene?
You sound really lucky with your family, Miguel. Mind you, I haven't got any complaints, but my family certainly isn't as much fun as yours. I mean, they didn't let me invite a couple of friends to dinner the other day. They told me it just wasn't convenient, and I can see that's not being unreasonable. It is their house after all. And anyway, it's not always like that. For example, the other day, when I wanted to go down to the seaside for the day, they actually lent me their car. I thought that was really nice of them. I'm very trusting. I mean, I've only just passed my test. Are you living with a nice family, Martina?
Well, we have our ups and downs. The other day, my landlady told me off because I'd got home a bit late and missed the family dinner. Apparently, I was supposed to phone to say I wasn't coming. Then when I went to see if there was anything left over in the fridge, I got into trouble again. She told me I couldn't just help myself to things without asking her first.
So what did you do? Walk out?
No, I apologized for being late and explained that I had to finish some project work at school. She calmed down and said never mind, and then she helped me to cook myself a really nice meal. So we were all friends again.
Great. Still, all your families sound really nice to me.
And isn't yours, Nikolai?
Well, they're all right, I suppose. Not very tidy, which is one thing I would complain about. I'm not the tidiest person myself, but I think they're just taking advantage of homestay students by saying that anyone staying in their home must do their share around the house, like clearing up a bit, doing a bit of the hoovering, a bit of the cooking. I needn't clean the bathroom or do any shopping, fortunately, because I wouldn't have the time. But I doubt if they'd let me have my friends in for dinner or anything like that. Not like you, Antonia.
Well, I'm lucky. Martina, you've been around for dinner, and so has Nikolai. I had to buy the food and cook it, of course, and they don't allow me to have big parties. But a couple of friends is okay. And they join in too, which makes it really interesting because we have, like a sort of international evening. It's quite good fun. And I cook traditional Sicilian food, which makes a change for everyone.
It sounds as if we're all quite lucky then. Not like a friend of mine who went back to Peru last year.